live in Austin, we couldn't get him up here. But.
Hey, Chuck, how are you?
So, I hope you guys enjoy the record. It comes out September 10th. Tonight.
My birthday.
Excellent.
My birthday.
Rosie will be 23 when the record comes out. We're excited.
And
Now,
then some.
tonight, after we play the record all the way through, we have advanced copies. So as you leave, make sure you pick up a copy. Do not want to see them on eBay anytime this week. Okay? So enjoy the show, enjoy the music, and thanks for coming.
I'd like to say one thing before we go, get going here. To me, he's the guest of honor here, Cowboy Jack Clement. So. He has 2 songs on this record. They're the only songs that Johnny Cash didn't write, and they're like, you know, they're still Johnny Cash songs, and they're still Cowboy Jack. And we want to thank Scott and the people at the label for letting us do this. And the amazing thing was when we started turning in these masters, they started throwing more money at us and letting us get more stuff, and which usually just doesn't happen. And they were great. And I really want to thank Chuck. He was like the perfect person to help produce this thing. Plus, we got free rhythm guitar out of it, which was great.
It was really great.
Say something.
Say something.
I don't have very much to add to that. It just was a pleasure to work with all these people on this record. And it was amazing how everybody brought their own little spirit and retained all the Johnny Cash spirit at the same time. And it was basically just a great love letter to Johnny from all of us to all of him.
Well said, yeah.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy yourselves.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Well, they gave him his orders, and you said, "Speed away my time." This is not birthday. This is old 97. So poor and spent on time. Then he turned and said,
Well, that one I think is probably geared more toward a top 40 and
Right, exactly.
has all them people that do that,
Right.
which is fine, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, and it's interesting too. Are we good to go with audio? It's interesting too because when I lived in Nashville, this was just like alternative country was just sort of coming around the bend,
Right.
and now it's really developed into something totally different.
it has developed into something different. It's I think it's probably took a life of its own now. It's not really appropriate to call it alternative country because now it's just alternative music now, because it's got its roots in country, but it's also my stuff has definitely got more country in it than anything. But there's some of the stuff called alternative country has got more rock in it than it does country. But it's it's got the common ground is the roots. You know?
Yeah. And, a lot of people describe your music as having a very, a surf-oriented sound, surfing with Dale Watson.
Well, trucking probably be more,
Trucking.
the old trucking style is more, probably more tuned to me, but which has got that same type of beat, but it's geared more toward that.
Uh-huh. Well, you actually performed I Walk the Line on this album, which is probably one of the most famous Cash songs. Not that they're all not famous, but really represents Johnny Cash. What was it like to be asked to do that song, and did you pick that?
I didn't pick it, but I do that song in my shows, and Dave and Chuck knew that, and they asked me if I'd do it. I'm just honored to be on this album, period, with a great cast of people that are on here, but to do that song is it's pretty scary, I just hope that I done it justice,
Well, it sounds from what's going on in the listening party inside that you have done it justice. They've done the whole album justice. I guess we haven't heard you yet, but what was it like to work with other people? Did you have a chance in the studio to actually hang out with the other artists, or did you come in and lay your tracks?
No, they had to send them because I'm on the road so much. They had to send it to me in Austin when I had a couple of days to record there with Dave and Chuck's tracks, because it's only me, Chuck, and Dave on the whole record on my cut, and it's pretty sparse. And hopefully, it'll lend itself to the song though.
Well, and Johnny Cash, it's funny because this on the cover of this magazine, his 70th year, his sort of main thing in life was to keep it simple and real. And I think that that's what comes across in the selection of all the artists that are on this album, is that they're all doing things in their career that are keeping it really real. Don't you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think that's probably I said the roots thing is permeating through this whole album and probably through everybody's music, even out of this album. I know it's certainly with BR549 and Hank 3, James and Feld, Rosie Flores, and I'd like to think myself, Billy. Well, everybody's trying to keep the roots up to the forefront in their music, and it's a hard thing to do these days. And I think they brought the right group of people in to do it.
What is your latest project, Dale?
Actually, I have a live from London record that's coming out on Audium Records the 15th of this month, and that'll be. It's even though it's a 2-year-old recording, it's that remix, and they're putting it out this month, and then after that we go back in the studio and do the next studio album for Audium.
Nice. And what do you think? Free Range is actually based out of Austin, Texas. What do you think about living in Austin?
I love living in Austin. I always get a little nervous coming to Nashville because it's Nashville, and it's just got its reputation to be so ruthless, and so I just come out here and just try to have a good time. Because luckily, I was saying earlier to somebody in there, this party is unlike most Nashville parties. When you go to like a BMI or ASCAP party here in town, you can feel the.
Not to mention any names, but.
Yeah. But you can feel the pretension and the plastic and in the air, and you come to a thing like this and you feel the love. You know, I mean, it's a thing for Johnny Cash. You feel the real, and also I know it sounds corny to say you feel the love, but it's true. Everybody knows everybody there. Everybody on the record knows everybody on the record, and so it is a labor of love, and you can feel it in that room, and everybody is glad to be a part of it.
Right.
So I love being from Austin, but it's kind of like a little bit of Austin here.
That's true. And also Johnny Cash is one of the few who stood up to the Nashville, the glass ceiling, the system, and all of the bullshit, excuse me for saying that, but we can say that on my show, and said, I'm not going to take this from anybody in Nashville. And so it's interesting, too, that this many years later, people are still kind of fighting the establishment here. And I'm so glad to see that all these great people are here gathering to do this in his honor. Because, we've been... Actually, Zach and I got thrown into the Country Music Awards a few years back.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, oddly enough, the single off of my record is going to be a song called "Country My Ass." They call it a CMA song. So there you go. That'll be out on June 15th. But that type of thinking is getting more widespread in Nashville, and that's why I think maybe a little bit's coming around. Dual Tone putting out this record. Signing June Carter, that's certainly a big step. Audium Records has Loretta Lynn putting out records on her and Ray Price.
Right.
Took a big chance with signing me and putting my records out. So I think maybe that the people that really want to get behind this roots movement are in Nashville. The record labels are maybe more independent-minded and independent labels, but they're affiliated with majors like Audium is affiliated with Koch Distributing. And Dual Tone is affiliated with BMG, so we're making small strides,
Well, yeah, and Quentin Tarantino sort of put you on the map too in a lot of ways in mainstream culture, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. He's been a big supporter of the music, and also he comes out to the shows and it's.
How is Quentin doing? We haven't seen him around doing much of anything lately.
I've only seen him because Mike Judge is a friend friend of mine from he does King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead and all, but he hangs with Mike Judge, and that's the only time I ever get to see him. So,
Yeah.
so I have to ask Mike. I don't know.
Yeah. I bet that's a party. Well, you know what? I've appreciated so much you doing this interview with Free Range, and I've loved your music for years. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Thank
And
you
I'm
so
sure
much.
that Johnny's very honored to have you.
I'm way honored. I'm wearing the coat for him.
That's right. And you're looking very nice.
Thank you.
Do
You want to say Free Range TV?
Yeah,
or-
just say who you are and say you're watching Free Range TV. And actually,
Okay.
you can say whatever you want. You don't even have to say,
All right.
not necessarily just mention Free Range. And
All right.
Okay, go ahead. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, y'all. This is Dale Watson. You keep on watching Free Range. That's it.
one more.
Howdy, y'all. This is Dale Watson. If you know what's good for you, you keep watching Free Range.
Okay, and then do one more and say Free Range TV.
All right.
I like that last one. That was good.
Whenever you're ready.
Howdy, y'all. This is Dale Watson. You keep watching Free Range TV.
You down the
All
rest
right, well,
of the
on
day.
a lighter note,
On a lighter note. Okay, so Dave, what's your last name? I'm sorry.
I'm Dave Rowe.
Dave Rowe. Okay.
I
And
play
Chuck
bass with
Mead.
Johnny
And
Cash.
right.
Yeah.
Chuck, he plays guitar with BR549 and himself.
I know exactly who Chuck is. We go way back.
Oh,
We did an
the
interview.
other side of the building.
Yeah, back when I first heard the expression, they don't know us from Sikkim,
I'm sick of
which is one of my favorites. Okay, we get
Who
to
said that? Did
Uh,
I say that?
You said that, and we were talking about a party that you guys played for Emmylou Harris's daughter's birthday, and REM played, and I asked you what REM thought about your music, and you said
They didn't know us from Sikkim.
exactly.
Well, Michael Stipe's an asshole anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I have one thing to say. On Free Range, anything goes.
Oh, cool.
Don't hold back.
I took that, you know. Hi.
Hi. No, really, you can talk about whatever you want. We just talked about the Nashville ceiling, and Dale had some fine, very polite but interesting things to say about what goes on in the Nashville industry. And the thing is that you guys, historically, at least I know from you, have sort of surpassed that and done what you wanted to do in this town, pretty much, don't you think?
Yeah, I've been lucky. I mean, I get to do what I want, you know. And that's how we know each other, because we're both part of part of the we're cousins. Hi. I'm getting interviewed for this Free Range something or other. That's my wife
It's all
walking
I
by
heard.
over.
Your wife has some sexy pants going on there.
Big tits, dude, you know.
That's true too.
No, but we're lucky. We get to do a lot, and that's how Chuck.
We
knows-
do a lot of waving in
Yeah, we do a
Nashville
lot of
too.
That's
Well-
how Chuck and I got to know each other, and when we were putting this together, I just thought he'd be a great guy to co-produce this record,
Right.
because and you know, he's a great musician, and everybody that did this record, we all kind of know each other. We're all kind of part of that same little scene, so it was very cool, very much under the radar country acts,
Yeah.
the ones that should be Music Row that aren't, you know.
Right, exactly. And you know, who knows what's going on really? Let me fix this. On the row, you know, I don't want to say Nashville's burning, but it seems to me like things have been very interesting on the row. It's not. It's sort of fallen apart in a lot of ways, right?
Well, the thing about it is that there's always been good music going on here in Nashville, and it gets a bad rap just because of, you know, your mainstream. You know, people think that that's the only thing going on in Nashville, and you know, there's not. There's tons of good bands on Lower Broadway that play every night that are
Yeah.
that are great, and other music that's going on besides your commercial country radio hits. I mean,
Yeah.
and so in that sense, Nashville kind of gets a bad rap, and it's just all directed at sort of the music biz.
That to me is the big crime that's happened here in the last 15, 20 years, which is that because of what they're selling on Music Row, which is, you know, no offense to any of those artists, they're all great in their own way, but we've missed a whole generation, maybe two, of great country singers and writers who didn't get a chance to do their thing because they were no longer appropriate for the business here.
Well, yeah.
And that's what really sucks about it. I played down on Broadway with one of the top bands down there for a long time, and that's what we saw. We saw just these kids coming to town who should have been signed to record deals who weren't because they didn't,
Yeah.
you know, conform
They
to what
didn't
they were
conform.
selling. You know, so it's terrible.
And the irony too is that, you know, Dressed in Black. This is the tribute to Johnny Cash. Not yet released. Available soon.
Right, September 10th.
September 10th. Johnny Cash not only is he a legend just from what he's done and his persona, but he really did take on Nashville. He really did have the most
He's
watched.
still taking on
and he's still
Nashville.
taking on
He's still
Nashville.
taking it on.
And you know that's the thing. He had the most watched television show in music television history, and he had
takes
different.
everybody on.
Yeah, he takes everybody.
Johnny
on.
Cash is known throughout the whole world by all sorts of races and creeds and, you know, everything you could think of. People everywhere know Johnny Cash.
Yes.
Johnny Cash is America to some people, and I can't think of a better representation right there. Is all the good things about America.
Yeah. And so was that intimidating at all to be putting this together with somebody who
Well, no,
has that
because
much talent?
We knew which artists we wanted to do, and we basically let them pick the songs and what they wanted to do. And that's the other side of this. These are the artists that are actually out there playing his music and know his music and know the real country artists, and they are the real country artists now.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, nothing against what they're selling downtown, but it's just, you know, it was really, except for the logistical things, making the phone calls and all that stuff, it was the easiest record in the world I've ever played on.
Really?
It was just fun and cool. You know,
Right.
it was really easy to do. You know.
Nice. So,
He's a slave driver in the studio. Though. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
well, and you guys.
If it got any more laid back, I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah. In fact, they were asking, "What do you want to do, huh?" No. Oh, but it was great. It was a great experience, and in
And you
fact,
recorded in Nashville and in Austin, you mentioned earlier.
well, we did it through the miracle of modern technology, which is like, you know, most of the musicians and people who are in the business will know what we're talking about. Well, we did it by ADAT. We were able to mail tapes to the people who couldn't come here, and they did their parts, or we did our parts here, and mailed it to them, vice versa, whatever. And it was just a breeze. It was great. And through ancient technology, we made it sound great by running it through old tube gear when we mixed it. We were real lucky to have Ray Kennedy mix it. He's the best in town to us, and he's totally a vintage guy, and he took this modern thing and turned it into something that sounded really cool. So,
Beautiful. I just dropped the album. I'm sorry, you guys.
look good, really.
So, how did people come in? Was there anybody that wanted to play a specific song and really change it? Because it sounds to me like there's a lot of traditional, straight, sounds like Johnny things happening on this album. But I haven't heard it. I've only heard
What's
it.
funny about it is, like, I can answer that question by telling you about most of the people played their own guitar parts, and that's the kind of artists we went after, the people who could play their own lead guitar.
Right.
And most of them came back, and we encouraged them to do their own thing, but they all kept coming back and saying, you know, what Luther and Johnny did is what I really would like to do.
Right.
So there was none of that. They just did what they did, and it was awesome. I mean, it just all worked out fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because the Imagine tribute that happens every year with John Lennon, sometimes I think that artists can take it too far when they're like changing a song that maybe shouldn't be touched like that. And that's one of the things that I've noticed about this album is that there's a lot of talent and it's raw
We're not
and it's
really
roots.
copying the records, but
No.
they're still certainly in the spirit of the records. you know.
Exactly.
I just want to point out I don't like to be touched like that either. So
What's going on with BR549?
we lost a couple of guys out of the band, and because of the road, you know, because it's hard, you know. So we took a little
Lost
break.
them out there on the road.
We took a little break,
You
and
just
you know, and they're doing
turned around and they weren't on the bus anymore.
well, you know,
I'm kidding.
it's
kidding.
It's a little that way, but you know, we're still out there. We got a couple other guys, you know, and while they can't replace them
Right.
at all, because you know, 7 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time for a band to be together. But we,
Right.
you know, we Donnie and Sean and I thought that we wanted to go on and play, so we got a couple other guys to play, Chris Scruggs and Jeff
Yeah,
Fireball.
they sound great, right?
And they do sound really, really good.
They do. They sound.
And we're going out on the road. We're going to Europe, where they're releasing a best of BR549 record.
Here's another wave.
In Europe on BMG Gravity Records. It's
Okay.
going to be in the UK.
No.
Well, it's the right neighborhood.
Yeah, it is.
Mine.
What would that bring? I could get a lot for you guys.
Well, maybe for him. I don't know about you.
I'm not going without you, man.
Oh boy.
That would bring even more money.
Sickening thought, isn't it?
Let's go on to something else.
Okay.
I tell you
So
one
live.
thing that's very cool was the chance to work with Dual Tone. Like I said in there earlier, we walked in, we had this idea, and they just flew with it. And as a matter of fact, you're the first to know.
Oh.
Our next project is we're producing an alternative country tribute to the Ramones. So
Oh,
we're going to start that.
fantastic.
This fall, so, and which was his idea.
Very
so
nice.
So he gets to make all the calls on this one. Yeah.
Right. Okay, I will.
Making calls.
Hey,
You're lucky if the phone rings.
Let me tell you, this is like not only one of the finest studio and live musicians in town, but he's like one of the greatest guys ever. And I feel really flattered that he brought me in on this because he's a giant around here. Everybody knows it, and everybody says that you got to call Dave. He's the man. So I was really happy that he brought me in on this. I felt flattered. And I felt like I was playing with the big boys.
Like I said, I needed somebody to play free rhythm guitar.
Well, and Dale was just talking about how much love there is in this project and how much you feel it. And it's not just because of Johnny, which started it. It's because of your relationships.
I got the idea for this from something I heard Dale say one time.
Oh, really?
Which was, I went to see him play in Austin, and they were doing a tribute to the Eagles here in Nashville, and then right behind it was a tribute to the Stones. And he got on stage and he said, it's cool that everybody's doing tributes to the Eagles and the Stones, but why anybody doing a fucking tribute to Johnny Cash or Merle Haggard or like that? And I sat there and I went, and I swear to you, that's where I got the idea.
Really?
And I just said, one of these days we need to do that, with these kind of artists,
Right.
And Dale, to me, Dale's the flagship artist on this record. His track is one of my favorites, and it's really, really good. He really did a great job.
Yeah. Well, I also just heard of another tribute to Johnny that is happening that's being produced by Marty Stewart. What are your thoughts on that, and what have you heard about that album? I just dropped the album again. Hang on. So what are your thoughts?
What are your thoughts?
Well, I think I think that's going to be a great record in its own way. It's a different thing,
Right.
Marty's got all. Yeah, he's got like
Keith Richards,
Bruce Springsteen. Bob's doing it. Bob Dylan's doing one, and Sheryl Crow, Little Richard. Hank Jr. He's got all, and that's great. And it is totally fantastic.
Hank Jr. track, as a session musician, and it's happening too. It's got its own thing, and it's going to be a great record. In fact, we wanted Marty and his wife Connie Smith to be on this record, but we couldn't get the schedules worked out, and there was no competition. I played on that one. We asked him to be on this, but it just didn't work out.
Right.
We have each other's blessing, I guarantee you, and it's just great.
Yeah.
Because we're not.
That's
really,
fantastic.
It's a totally different scene what we're doing.
And plus, it's all for Johnny anyway.
It's all for Johnny.
And Johnny's an ex-alumni of
Right.
Johnny's band, like I am.
Right.
So it's it's really cool.
And did Johnny come in and listen to any of the tracks or get involved in
We're
anything?
gonna go see him in the next week or so and play it for him. Yeah. So.
Well, and the most important thing that I want to mention that is just so fantastic is that I've recently heard that Johnny's health has improved immeasurably, and it's a full 360 from what I've heard.
I recorded with him a year ago, and then I recorded with him about a month ago, and the difference was phenomenal. Just the way he was and the way he looked and acted and sounded. Most people's voices deteriorate as they get older, and his voice, I swear to you, he's singing better now than he did in the 50s. It's absolutely amazing how his voice sounds now.
Wow, that's incredible.
And his new record coming out on American Records is unbelievable. It's really, really good. Really good.
Well, and hallelujah. Thank goodness for things working out.
I really appreciate you all.
Well, I appreciate it so much, you guys, and I can't speak right now. I really appreciate you being on Free Range, and I wish you luck. Dressed in black, Johnny Cash.
Say your name.
I'm Dave Rowe, and this is Chuck Mead.
And you're watching the Free Range? Because I'm
that.
playing a little pocket pool. What? Okay.
And we produced this record, tribute to Johnny, with Hank III, Robbie Fulks, Rodney Crowell, Raul Malo, Chuck Mead, the Reverend Horton Heat, Kelly Wilson, Bruce Robeson, Billy Burnett, Red Volkart, Rosie Flores. You read the other side.
James Enfield, Damon Bramlett, Earl Poolball, Dale Watson, Kenny Vaughn, Eddie Angel, Mandy Barnett, Chris Knight. And it's a fabulous record.
10th. And keep on watching Free Range TV. When I'm naked in the hotel room, when I'm out on the free range naked, what do you watch?
I watch Free Range naked.
Yeah, in the
not with you.
Not with him.
I call you on the phone while I'm naked and watch Free Range.
Yeah, that's right. So you watch Free Range too.